Hey, hey, good to be joining you on this incredibly hot summer's day in England. I'm loving it. So today's going to be a little bit different to my usual Wednesday Q&As because today I'm essentially going to be kind of answering my own question. I did receive some questions. A few of my Evolution membership women submitted some questions, and I was going to answer them. And then I just couldn't resist the pull and the calling to share with you what's going on with me and my perimenopause journey. So it's a little bit of a departure from what I usually speak about. However, because my audience is predominantly women, and women who desire to feel empowered, and women who desire to feel in charge of their life, and women who know in their gut that life is happening for them and not to them, when we go through perimenopause and menopause, and I'm speaking to everybody, all women, because we all do, right? We all do. And thankfully, this is becoming a way more mainstream conversation. Hey, Tracy, and hey, Lucy. It's becoming a way more mainstream conversation, which is excellent. And 2 years ago, when I realized I was entering perimenopause at the age of 43, it wasn't as mainstream, but it was becoming more mainstream. And I'm so glad that it gets way more mainstream now. And that's important. And I'll tell you a few reasons personal to me as to why I think that's so important that we are speaking about it. But you know, it's something that does happen to all of us. And I think the more we just share our personal stories, the more we are of help to each other. I think this is a time when women really need to share their stories. Hey, Barney, not sure this is for you, but it might support you in supporting your wife. I'm pretty sure you're married. So if you listen to today's live, I have a feeling it will support your marriage. Because I'm all about, you know, we're all going to go through this thing and we're all going to go through it completely differently. That's the thing with perimenopause. It's a bit the same with periods. It's the same with pregnancy. It's the same with childbirth. Every woman is going to have her own experience of that. And it's really important that we kind of roll with our own experience and embrace our own experience and find a way to have that experience be empowered and self-loving, right? Because here's the thing, like when I realized a couple of years ago that I was entering into perimenopause, Barney's telling me his wife is of an age. Yeah, and you even in that, Barney, you're bringing up a point because, you know, I'm about to turn 46. So yeah, it's coming up on 3 years actually that I've realized I'm in perimenopause. But to me, that's so early. Like that really, really took me by surprise. And, you know, I thought you're at least over 50 before you started to be remotely symptomatic. And when I realized it, the conditioning, the societal conditioning that I had was that if you're entering the menopause phase, then basically life as you know it is over. It's downhill from here, and it ain't going to be a lot of fun. I was going to lose my sex drive. I was going to lose any level of attractiveness. I was going to feel like an old crone. I was going to be grumpy, just miserable, and just I felt like, not I felt, I thought I was going to really lose my lust for life. Hey, Sophie. Which is why I wanted to find out more about it and empower myself so that I could feel on some level in charge of my own experience. While my experience was going to be unique to me and while I can't predict it and I can't control it, I can feel in charge of my response to it and I can create support for myself that has me feel empowered as I go through it. And that's why I want to talk about it today, because I really want women to have this experience of perimenopause. I want women to have this experience of their whole life, right? How we do one thing is how we do everything. So my approach to perimenopause isn't dissimilar to my approach to my whole life. And I'm pretty sure if you're a woman in my community, then, you know, we're speaking the same language. So what do I want to share today? Because my perimenopause journey has taken, it's like we kind of went off the highway and we're on some back streets and I'm going down a path that I really didn't expect to be going down. So my experience began with hot sweats, night sweats, like really nasty, like proper, like I'd wake up in the middle of the night and it was like I've just like got out of a bath. Awful, uncomfortable, upset my sleep, and it was very confusing when I didn't understand what it was. We're moving into 3 years ago now. I suddenly started to get really nasty acne, horrible. So in your early 40s to start getting acne again is quite a surprise. That didn't do my confidence a great lot of good. And because I do a lot of like live video and showing up live and that kind of thing, I found that very difficult for my confidence. I started to feel really depressed. And that was really hard to stomach because life was good. Like I was loving my business. I was loving my clients. I was fairly newly in love as well. We were still very much honeymoon stage. I think James and I had only been together for about 18 months at that point. In fact, it was just before we ended up getting married. I felt really, really down and depressed. And I even started getting these bouts of anxiousness, and I couldn't link it to anything. I couldn't relate it to anything. And it didn't feel like depression and anxiety as I had experienced it way back in my past. It felt really out of control. It really scared me, actually, really, really scared me. Terrified me would be perhaps even more appropriate way to describe how I felt. Because, my story is that my mum took her own life when I was 22. And I want to speak to that a little bit more today as well, because I think there's a warning within today's message. Because what my mom didn't know back then, which we know now, is that depression and anxiety are very much the experience of a lot of women in perimenopause and menopause. It's a very natural and normal part of the experience for a lot of women, not for everybody. I was speaking to my mother-in-law. She never experienced any menopausal symptoms. She just sort of went through it and came out of it, didn't even know it had happened, She's super lucky. It's different for all of us, so different. And it takes, different journeys. So like I was sharing in the beginning, I had the night sweats, the bad skin, the emotional pieces, the anxiety and the depression. And a lot of that has shifted into something else. But just before I move on from the anxiety and depression piece, when my mum was 43, she attempted suicide at 43. And this coincided with a period of time in her life where she'd been seeing doctors and therapists, and she was told that she was clinically depressed. And she was on quite the concoction of drugs, including antidepressants. And it was never discussed. It was never mentioned. It just wasn't even presented as an idea that perhaps she was in perimenopause. And maybe she wasn't clinically depressed. Maybe she had depression and anxiety that was being affected by her hormones or caused by her hormones. So she wasn't being treated in a holistic way, with an attention to her emotional state as related to her hormones. Do you know what I mean? It was seen as a clinical thing. It was seen as like a chemical imbalance in her brain. And that's how she was treated, which actually made her wrong and made her feel worse. And I feel really sad to reflect on that, because the way that she managed her perimenopause without even knowing she was in perimenopause, right? This is all, I can see this now in retrospect. The way she managed it was through antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication. That was it. That was her level of support through her menopause. And then when she was 49, she did commit suicide successfully. And that's an extreme situation, very extreme case. And I'm so glad we've moved way beyond that. But what I feel sure isn't being discussed enough, because it is such an icky subject and we don't really want to talk about it, is the depth of anxiety and depression that can affect women with, because of their hormones. And it really needs a lot of love and a lot of nurturing and a lot of support and holistic support. Mental support, emotional support, physical support, spiritual support, all of it. I think it's so important, and I really wish that my mum had that, because had she have had a more holistic and nourishing and understanding approach and support, I really honestly believe that she would still be with us today. I think she suffered perimenopause terribly, and nobody told her that's what was going on for her, and that makes me really sad. And it's another reason why I'm motivated to share my own story with you. So as I was saying, I explained like how my symptoms began, and then just only kind of 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was feeling so pleased and excited that my night sweats have stopped. They definitely lessened with how I've been supporting myself, but they stopped. I'm like, wow, that's brilliant. I've got to the other side of this whole perimenopause thing. My skin, completely cleared up quite a while ago now, so that's brilliant. So I don't have that issue anymore. And I hadn't been feeling the anxiety anymore or the depression, but something else was coming in. So there was me thinking, oh yeah, great, I've got through this. That was quick, a couple of years. I mean, I haven't actually embarked on menopause. And by the way, if you don't understand exactly the definition of menopause, you've reached menopause or you achieve menopause when you haven't had a period for 12 months. So until you haven't had a period for 12 months, you're not actually in menopause. You are perimenopausal. Once you've not had a period for 12 months, then you've hit menopause, and then it's a different journey once you're in the menopause stage. So I got all that to come. So yeah, a couple of weeks ago, it became clear to me that I had some new emotional stuff coming up, which was really uncomfortable, and I just couldn't even talk to my husband about it because I actually felt so ashamed and uncomfortable in my own skin. And I'm going to share with you what it was, because I think this is going to help you if you're relating to anything that I'm sharing. I also had my joints started hurting. So my husband started saying, I think you need to go to the doctor. You might be getting arthritic. And I'm like, what? I'm 46. No. And I've been getting terrible joint pain in my thumbs, in my knees, and sometimes in my feet and ankles. Mostly my thumbs and my knees. So and across my lower back. So I quite often feel like this sort of cripple. And the Disney images of the old crone, which is a menopausal woman, is this kind of arthritic, crippled, crumpled over figure, isn't it? And I was starting to feel like this crippled, crumpled over figure. And then the emotional stuff that was going on for me that had me feel even more like this kind of evil, mean crone creature was that I found that I haven't been, it's really difficult to say actually, but I'm going to say it because I want to help. Because when I realized what was going on, game changing, right? So I wasn't relating well to my stepdaughter. Now, I wasn't being mean. I wasn't, it's more about what I wasn't doing rather than what I was doing. So I wasn't being my usual loving, supportive, bubbly self with her. I wasn't taking an interest in her. I wasn't even wanting to be around her. I didn't want to be in her company. And by the way, she's the most beautiful girl. She's fabulous. It makes me emotional to share this. Fabulous girl, beautiful, beautiful thing who's just about to turn 13. So just beginning her, her teenage years. When it comes to teenagers, she's a good one, right? She's just lovely. And I've always felt such a connection to her. I've always loved her dearly. I've always wanted to support her. I've always felt very blessed that my new families and my new kind of stepkids I just loved them, and it was easy. It felt easy. I felt so blessed that I could meet somebody at this stage of my life and love his kids, and for them to love my child. And it's all been so healthy for so long, and then suddenly, and it felt like it happened overnight, suddenly I didn't want to be around her. Yeah, she might be being a little bit difficult. We all know what teenagers can be like. But I was finding it really hard, and I didn't know why. And my thinking about her, my repulsion to being around her, feeling that inside my body was so shameful. I felt so ashamed and I did not like myself. So I wonder if you can relate to that experience. And I know that in my relationship, well, you know, in any relationship where it's getting to the end and you're just not being nice to each other and you say stuff that just isn't the truth of who you are and you're really reacting to each other. And like, whenever I've been in that situation towards the end of a relationship, I have not liked me. I've not liked this woman. I have not liked the words that have come out of her mouth, the thoughts that she's had, the way she's treated another human being. I have not liked her. And I felt like that again. I felt like I was in the end of a super unhealthy relationship dynamic and I did not like me. I didn't like how I was showing up. And I eventually shared it with James. I really had to pluck up the courage, but I'm a huge believer that a healthy relationship relies on very, very open and honest communication, even if that risks somebody feeling hurt. I had to share how I was feeling. And he was amazing. And he said, yeah, he'd noticed that my behavior hadn't been great. And it was like treading on eggshells. Now that was my worst case scenario, to have my family treading on eggshells around me. That's how I felt with my mom in her last few years. I didn't want to be that person. And for him to say to me for the last couple of weeks, I felt like I'm on eggshells with you. I was like, I don't want to be that woman. I'm not that woman, you know? And so we had a really good conversation about it, which was very supportive for me and helped in the first instance. And then I believe, as all of you know, life is designed to support us. Life is always guiding us and always loving us. And I have a very, very dear friend who I call my personal little white witch. And she quite often actually channels my mum and brings me messages from my mum, which are always beautifully supportive and perfectly timed. And she rang out of the blue and said, could she pop over? And she had breakfast with us. And I shared with her how I'd been feeling. And she reminded me something that I knew, but I'd forgotten, because when I heard the information, I wasn't experiencing it. So I wasn't fully relating. I was kind of getting it as information, but not experientially relating to it. So 2 years ago, I created an interview series called My Menopause, which I'll give you the link to. And so when I discovered I was in perimenopause all that time ago, I didn't go to the doctor. I reached out to menopause experts all around the globe and created this big interview series. And we had a 1 week online conference. And I got all the information I need and I was fully supported. And I then went forward and was able to embrace my perimenopause with, you know, feeling really super empowered. And then now I've hit this new level of it, this sort of new wave of it. And while I'd received all of this information from my interview series, I'd forgotten what my friend reminded me of just a few days ago. And she reminded me that at my age, on a primal level, a woman's body, the reason we're moving into menopause is because our body is saying, right, I'm done with that part of life where I can bear children and I want to bear children. I'm moving into the part of life where the kids have moved out and I'm moving on with my life. And me moving on with my life means I don't have to take care of anybody else anymore. On a primal level, my body is saying to me, no more taking care of kids. You did that. Tick. Well done. No more bearing children. You've done that. Well done. No more taking care of husband. You know, he's cool. We got this. Like, tick, move on. It's about you now. That's what my body is saying. Like, all of you who are in perimenopause and menopause, our bodies are saying to us, we've done that. Great. Now it's all about me. Now, what I love about that is when self-love becomes so exciting. It's all about me. Oh my God, it really is. Like it's like I don't have to take care of someone else. I don't have to give birth again. It's about me. I get to take care of me. I get to focus on part 2 of my life. What do I want to create for the next stage of my life? How exciting. Like that, putting that frame around menopause, I think is absolutely brilliant. That's helped me enormously to do that. But our body is saying, I don't want kids around. No, thank you. You're not meant to be here. So my energy was literally repelling. And it was repelling all the kids, but there was something about not so much with the boys as it was with the girl. Which then my friend reminded me, and this was really hard to stomach because I literally don't think this, but my body intuits it and kind of feels it. And I was having an emotional response. And that's the idea that a young girl who's just beginning her puberty, you know, just getting a period, just getting her boobs, going into that beautiful phase of becoming a woman. She is becoming a woman, a beautiful woman at that. And she's voluptuous and she's youthful and she hasn't got any wrinkles and she's got this beautiful plump skin and healthy hair and, you know, beautiful girl moving into a phase where she is ready to be able to produce children, theoretically, right? On a primal level, something inside me witnesses that as a threat. Now, I don't think that, but the primal something in me, which someone else might be able to explain better than I can right now, something primal in me sees that as a threat, sees that as someone in the world that's showing me, it's like a mirror back to me of my age, of the fact that I am going downhill, that it's all over, that I can't have that again, right? And there's a truth to that, and there's a sadness actually, and I feel that as I'm speaking to you, like I can't have that again. I can't go through those magical teenage years. Also, you know, as we know, super painful and uncomfortable and existential crises every other day. But I can't go through that again. And I can't produce children. That's sad. And, you know, there is a grief around this. There's an absolute letting go when we're moving into this new phase of our life. And we have to let it go and then embrace the new and get excited and empowered about what's next and what's possible for us. But this beautiful young teenage girl represented everything that, well, currently represents everything that I have to let go. And while that's not a cognitive thing, it's not like I'm looking at her thinking this. In my body, I'm feeling it, and it brought up anger and bitterness. And I was starting to feel like, with my crippled hands and knees, and I was starting to feel like, like this old crone. And it was awful. And thank God my friend, my white witch friend, happened to pop around and happened to remind me of this. And there's a couple of episodes in the interview series that I referred to, which I will give you the link for because they're brilliant, brilliant interviews. So much information. A couple of the experts speak to exactly this, and I'm actually going to go back and watch them. And it made me feel so much better, and I'm excited now I'm actually going to have a conversation with her about exactly where I'm at, what's been going on for me, because I know I have a very strong energy, and I know that, you know, she'll be feeling it, and I don't want her to feel that, because here's the thing. At the baseline of all of the coaching and, you know, therapeutic coaching support work I do with women is this piece around healing the inner child who was made to feel like she wasn't enough. And girls with mums, teenage girls with mums going through menopause, like I could see myself becoming that woman who was treating this completely innocent teenage girl in a way that had her feel like she was wrong, she was getting it wrong, she wasn't doing it well enough, she wasn't being perfect enough, she wasn't enough because of the way I was being with her. And I do not want to be that woman. I refuse to be that woman. And I desire to lift her up and support her to be the woman that she's becoming and going to be. So I've got to talk to her about it. And I think that's, I'm a bit scared, but I'm also excited because I wish someone had had this conversation with me. I wish in the last 6 years of my mum's life, which is the years when I found her the most difficult. She was so hard to be around. I was always on eggshells. I so desired a great relationship with her, but it was difficult. Very loving, don't get me wrong, but it was difficult. If I'd known this, and if she'd known this, we could have navigated it with just so much better. It could have been so bonding. It could have been the most beautiful experience, and we didn't get to have that. So I'm committing to creating that now with her, with my stepdaughter, which feels exciting. And I've had a good talk with my son about it. I've explained all of this to him. So he's like he's 13, he's fully clued up with my hormonal journey. And I think that's brilliant, because I know that means he will be able to support the women in his life going forward, to have that knowledge. And so I've now gone on to support myself with buying, I've invested in collagen, what's it called, hyaluronic acid. Wild Nutrition have been my best friend for years. I love their food state supplements. And if you want a link to get a big discount with them, ask me and I'll give it to you. But yeah, I've got their botanical complex, which has the ashwagandha herb in it and magnesium. And so it's sort of supporting me on an emotional level as well as a physical level. I've invested in bone broth, which has collagen in it. So I'm doing it. It's costing me quite a lot, but I'm worth it, and my health is worth it, and my family are worth it, because I want them to have the best version of me. To get the best version of me, I have to look after me first. I have to invest in me on every level. So, that's where I'm at the minute. And the reason why I brought this subject into a Q&A today is because I've been living in the question, my own question for a while around this. And I'm realizing there's different levels and stages to the question. And I'm inherently a seeker, always on a journey, always desiring to feel more empowered, and desiring to live my life in self-love. And my menopause journey couldn't be more that. It couldn't be calling more of that from me, right? So yeah, that's where I'm at. And I really hope that I've been helpful in sharing this with you. Just a minute, there's some messages. Sana saying hyaluronic acid is called the cell cement, in biology, and is really important for our body and uterus and ovaries. Great. Okay, so yeah, I'm on that. I've got lots of Facebook messages, so I'm just going to have a quick look in case there's anything there that I can respond to. Thanks for sticking around, ladies and men. Barney. So Barney shared a link with me for someone in Sussex. Oh, cool. Okay, I'll have a look at that. Sophie's saying that's how it affected her as well. It's totally thanks to you that I now follow an HRT program, so I'll always be more grateful to you than I can ever say. Oh my gosh, really, Sophie? I didn't know that. So you watched one of the interviews in my series. Yeah. Great. That's amazing. HRT isn't for everybody. And, there's a whole other conversation around that. But I'm so glad that's supporting you, because it really can be the right fit for some women. Absolutely. Not for everybody, that's for sure. But again, this is the thing with perimenopause and menopause. You have to find your own way. And there's so many amazing experts in the world that can support us. And I really think it's our personal responsibility to have those conversations with those various experts and find the right fit for you, find the right modality for you, whether it's HRT, whether it's a nutritional piece or an exercise piece or a supplements piece. Or it'll be a mix of all of it, actually. But you've got to find your own way, and you don't have to suffer it. Not to say there won't be difficulties, as I just shared some of mine. And yet, every difficulty, every challenge is our opportunity for growth. It's our opportunity for deeper connection with other people. And it's an opportunity for us to know and love ourselves more. So everything is that. So I'm using my perimenopause journey for that. Tracy's saying, thanks, makes so much sense. Katie, with your beloved mum, amazing connection. Thank you, honey. Thank you. Thank you, Mandy. Yeah, it's a hard age, 13, right? You've got daughters, teenagers. Sophie's saying the most complex relationship has to be the stepchild. So tough and so easily misunderstood. I really feel for you. It is a really complex relationship. And I think through communication and through conscious parenting or conscious step parenting, it can be navigated. And I'm on it. I'm on it. I have to suck it up and be brave. Because little teenage Katie inside just wants to say, no, I can't be asked with making this, with being a conscious parent. I just want to rebel. But I'm not going to give in to that. No way. Sophie, you're unbelievably brave to share everything we can relate to. Great. You're welcome. Tracy sending me love. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you. Elizabeth, hi. I can so relate. Stepdaughter that came into my life at the age of 33 and I was 50. Wow, her father was meeting her for the first time, talk about crone and the beauty. Wow, yeah, right. So I'm not alone. I'm not alone. It's really interesting to speak about it in public like this. Only a few days after I have shared it with one of my best friends and shared it with my husband and my sister actually. But because it feels so shameful, it feels so embarrassing. But you know what? We just got to speak about the white elephant in the room because I just know I'm not alone. You know, I know I'm not, and I know I'm not a bitch. I know I'm not a mean, nasty person. Yeah, it's a very shameful experience, but it's really nice to know that I can get back in charge. I have been feeling it, Tracy. Yes. Juliet, hi, darling. It's an identity in you and it has a goal for you, that primal part. Interesting. I would like to know more about what you mean there. It's an identity in you and it has a goal for you. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's resonating. I'm going to sit with that for a bit, Juliet. Thank you. Elizabeth, do you think it's hard losing our sexuality as well, given that many of us are still young, but our bodies are moving us elsewhere and it's confronting? Interesting question. I don't think I am losing my sexuality. And I know Juliet on this call, and I know lots of women who support women in midlife around their sexuality, their sensuality, their intimacy, their relationships. I'm holding on to the belief that it doesn't have to affect my sexuality. I mean, the nature of it might change and it might ebb and flow and there might be highs and lows. It might not be the same constant sex drive as maybe I always had in my 20s and 30s. But am I going to lose my sexuality? If we're on the same page, if I'm understanding you correctly, I don't actually think we have to. And I think I have a sense, for myself with my husband, it's actually where I might be feeling held back. It might actually be an opportunity for us to deepen our intimacy. So it'll be bringing about a new level to our relationship. So I actually think there's an opportunity within this around deepening our relationship rather than have it be the reason why a relationship ends. And I can see even with my parents' divorce, while that was years in the making, I can also see how my mum's perimenopause and everybody being on eggshells in her emotional state absolutely affected their marriage and was one of the big reasons why it would have ended, very sadly. Sana's saying, but HRT has side effects as well, so we're cautious before giving it, but if it suits you, it's good. Yes, absolutely, Sana. Yep, totally agree. Mandy, oh, hell yeah, I'm struggling with it. Okay, there's some chat between you guys going on, which is beautiful. Thank you, Sophie. My son is lucky. Thank you, Tracy. Yes, we are all seekers. Yes. Elizabeth saying, Katie, I know you've mentioned these supplements before, but if you don't mind adding them and then link again, it would be so great. The confusion of the perimenopause stage is huge and complex. Thank you for opening the conversation. You're welcome. Yes, I will post links to Wild Nutrition. I do have a link, I have to dig it out, that will give you a discount. And I will post the link to the My Menopause interview series as well, because there's just so much in there that can support you from lots of experts from all around the world in lots of different arenas. Sophie said HRT has rebalanced your mental state. Amazing. Juliet did the Dutch hormonal test. I want to know more about that too, please, Juliet. Tracy saying, is this my next book? Maybe. Elizabeth, Katie, you're responding to my comment about my stepdaughter, and yes, it was shameful for me and so delightful for you to open dialogue. Yeah, thanks. Mandy, it is not a huge worry. I invite you to release the worry. Release the worry. There is something exciting coming for you. Yeah, release the worry. Your guy will be on it with you. Your guy will understand. Your guy will support you. your guy will be open and available, just like my guy is. And my guy's mom, James's mom didn't experience any menopause symptoms at all, sailed through it. So he had zero experience. So his experience of me now is brand new information. And he is so open and so supportive, and it's amazing to me. So it's not ruining our, which is essentially still a new relationship. Like, we're coming up to 4 years. It's still a new relationship. It's not ruining it. Okay. So please lean on that faith. Lean on that faith. Hello, Helen. Elizabeth, our sexuality. You are younger, but I've noticed a lot of change, especially physically. I'm 10 years older than you, and physical changes are difficult. I hear you. I hear you. You're right. And I am only in my, I'm 46. My friend who came over and delivered this wisdom to me the other day is 10 years older than me. And she shared that with me as well. So I feel you, darling. I feel you. And I still believe there is an opportunity within your current experience to embrace yourself, fully accept yourself, know and love yourself even more, and create something beautiful from this, and get intentional about phase 2 of your life. I really believe that. And that became the theme of all of the interviews I did with all of these experts, which I didn't expect. I didn't know what was going to come of this interview series. There was no intention except to get informed and get supported. But a very beautiful spiritual message came through very strongly with nearly every one of the experts that I interviewed. And it was about this opportunity for a woman to finally put herself first, to finally fully accept and love herself, to finally be who she's meant to be in the world. Your body is literally saying, it's time, and you can listen or not. And yeah, it's a freaking challenge. And at times it is not easy. Yesterday morning, I spent the first 20 minutes of my day bawling my eyes out because of the emotion, the hormonal surge that came through. But I have a note in my calendar, I'm totally honest. There's 5 days every month. Today is day 2 of those 5 days. It says on my calendar, every month for those 5 days, it says, be kind to yourself, Katie. Because I know that it's those 5 days a month that I am super sensitive, and I feel everything more deeply than I already do as an empathic healer, light worker woman in the world. And I bawled my eyes out yesterday morning. It's not always easy. We've got to learn to be there for ourselves. That's the invitation, learning to be there for ourselves. Hello, June. Nice to see you here. Suffering with difficulty of ME. My doctor recommended HRT as he said it was the right thing for me. Long time ago now, but so much resonates with me about me and my mum. She was 42 when I was born. Yeah, wow. She suffered so much with mental health. Oh, honey, yeah, thank you so much. You're welcome. And God, you see, at 42, having a child. And I was talking with my son about this just this morning. It's like, imagine having a baby at the same time as your body is gearing into menopause, and having to love a newborn while at the same time gearing into a stage of life when, your body's saying you're done with caring for other people. That's probably a whole other conversation, which I can't really relate to. But thank you for sharing that, June. Yeah, Sophie and Elizabeth are relating. Post 50 is a big shock. Yeah, I got that to come, girls. I got it to come. Any advice and wisdom, I'm all ears. You're welcome, Tracy. Yeah, it is a juicy conversation for sure. Thank you for joining, everybody. I run over a little bit, but I'm so glad to have been able to share with you. And I just pray that something in my experience helps at least one other woman. If you've heard anything that I've shared today that you can pass on to another woman who you know needs to hear it, please do. This is where women need women. This is where we can really help and support each other. Share your stories. Actually, Helen's on here. She was on here. She's all about story sharing. And this is a story worth sharing, your own personal menopause journey. You don't have to do it publicly like I do. That's my calling. At least share it with your children. At least share it with your husband. At least share it with your best friends. But don't be quiet about it. Open up, have conversation. Yes, Sophie, it is crucial. Okay, I love you all a lot. I will post those links that I promised to post. And I'll see you on Friday for some self-love wisdom. Let's see what other wisdom I can come up with. Mwah. Sending love. Bye.